US election. What impact could the assassination attempt on Donald Trump have on the US election? 0345 6060 973, text 84850. You can also ask Alexa to send a comment to LBC. I'll give you my thoughts on this in a few moments. But first, joining me is Erol Morkoc, Republican strategist and spokesperson for the Republicans Overseas UK. Erol, thank you very much indeed for joining me. Good afternoon to you.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
First to the terrible events yesterday. Your reaction to the terrible events first, Erol.
Yes. Well. At first glance, it's it's the first time in 40 years.
Sure we can. You go ahead.
Oh, it's the first time in 40 years that we've had a assassination attempt on a president or presidential candidate. It isn't it isn't anything to be proud of. There isn't any silver lining in it. There isn't a way for us to say, oh, this is going to help us in the election, or this galvanizes Trump's base. This is a travesty. This is a travesty for not just America, but for the collective Western rules-based world order, which has now completely been cast aside. You know, Joe Biden, he in a private call to donors said we need to put a bullseye on Donald Trump. You know, this kind of rhetoric that has come out of the Democrat campaign for the last basically 8 years against him, calling him essentially Hitler, has been giving every crazy person in America license to kill. Effectively, they have completely turned the narrative into a situation where people feel that Donald Trump is such an existential threat to democracy, as they've said he is. He will destroy democracy. He will end the republic. He will end the Constitution. This is a fight for the life of this country. And if those are the words that are being told, and you believe those words, then perhaps trying to assassinate the president is a logical conclusion. And if you look back in 2020, right before 2020, I think in 2017 or so, there was a crazy Bernie Sanders supporter who came to a congressional baseball field and shot a bunch of congressmen. And this isn't new, this political violence. There was fire bombings of Trump campaign offices in 2016 in North Carolina. It's just finally gotten to the point where they've shot the man. And it's there's nothing else to say. I mean, what does it mean for the young man and woman who wake up in this country and are looking to their leaders for guidance, and instead they're seeing violence and bloodshed? I wouldn't even say it's banana republic politics. It's not even politics. It's the end of decency, and certainly the end of democracy if we basically are trying to arrest and imprison and murder our political opponents in our country. That's not a Democrat-Republican issue. It's an American issue. And as an American, I'm ashamed, embarrassed, and sad for my country today.
It is, Errol. And whilst absolutely no one would have any truck with an assassination attempt on a former president, a potential future one, 4 presidents have been killed in your country, and indeed a number of others have been attacked in the past, attempted assassination attempts. Do you not think that the whole entire political environment over there has been also toxified by not only people on the Democratic side, but also on the Republican side, including Donald Trump himself? And you think of the January 6th insurrection, was that not also part of it? Not excusing what's happened, of course, but in terms of the toxicity of the debate?
Well, I understand your point. I would like to point out that if it was an insurrection, don't you think those people would have brought guns? We all have guns. Everybody I know has a gun. You didn't see people show up at that Capitol House with guns. You saw people show up and behave poorly. Now, yes, the entire American political system has gone off the rails, and it's not putting the blame squarely on the shoulders of the Democrats. But it's more of the extreme violence from the left. You see Antifa in the streets. You see people, naming and shaming Supreme Court justices. You have, very violent rhetoric. Find them and kind of castigate them is the left wing philosophy. On the right, yes, we've said things like lock her up because we think she committed crimes, and yes, we've said, we would like to see change, but nobody in the right has been calling for assassinations, and nobody in the right has been carrying around guns and shooting them at our political opponents. It's actually only been coming from the left in the last.
But not much was said when Nancy Pelosi. But Errol, not much was said when Pelosi's husband was attacked.
Oh, certainly, we all condemned that. Nobody was celebrating that besides awful cretins who don't represent anybody that I know. I mean, do we like Nancy Pelosi? No, but Paul Pelosi is a consummate gentleman, and everybody was horrified by that. And that was a terrible, cowardly attack. And that awful man has been put in prison for 3 life sentences. And I think all of us are happy for that. And I don't think it's quite comparable to have an assassination attempt on a presidential candidate versus a crazed lunatic with a hammer for a senator's husband.
Of course. Indeed. Now, Errol, what does this mean in your view for the presidential race? Does Donald Trump now have this completely sewn up in the bag? Because a number of people have come out in his support. Marco Rubio has actually said that God protected him. Bill Ackman, the hedge fund billionaire, has come out and saying that he was formally endorsing Trump. Even Elon Musk has said last time America had a candidate this tough was Theodore Roosevelt. Do you think that this is actually going to play well for Donald Trump, despite obviously the personal impact on him and the appalling nature of the attack?
Well, it's a two-sided question. Yes, of course it'll play well for anybody who's undecided or anybody who is looking for somebody who really has that, built different energy. Donald Trump has demonstrated it. Donald Trump has demonstrated that he can do better on a stage being shot at than Joe Biden can do with a teleprompter, and I think that's a telling indictment. However, I still believe this election is 50-50. I think that if you went on Twitter, or X as they call it, if you went on all these websites, there was a lot of very vicious people who were saying effectively, too bad they missed. And I think a lot of people on the left were disappointed that Donald Trump wasn't murdered today. And I mean that. I genuinely mean that half of our country would have been happy to see Donald Trump's head explode in 4K on television. And I think that's the real issue that we have here, because
it's appalling. Absolutely. It's a sobering thought. Yes. Sorry, Errol, your line's not brilliant. I was going to say it's a sobering thought and absolutely appalling if people are expressing those views. Errol, thank you very much. That was Erol Morkoc, Republican strategist and spokesperson for Republicans.
Thank you so much, Errol. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.